All right, let's. Hi there, and welcome to another Cliff's List interview. Today I've got Mark Singh, who is going to talk to us about dating and NLP and language. I'm quite interested to learn more about what you do, Mark. So maybe you can start off by introducing yourself to the people who aren't very familiar with you at this point.
So my name is Mark Singh. I am a dating coach. I use NLP, Neuro Linguistic Programming, because oftentimes when it comes to dating, actually every time when it comes to dating, what's going on inside your head is more important than what you actually say. And the reason that is because your belief systems are dictating your behavior, and women's attraction for you is based on your behavior. So it's absolutely essential that we work on bad belief systems, meta programs, traumas, schemas, and archetypes to fix those things that were unfortunately given to you before you could defend yourself from it. And that's what NLP does. NLP is Neuro Linguistic Programming. It's basically like a guided meditation, a guided visualization that removes and replaces belief systems. So that's what I do, is I work on those two spearheads, which is basically your belief systems, as well as tactically what to say, what to do, when to do it, etc.
How about you tell us how you, I guess, discovered NLP for this, and uh, yeah, and I guess walk us through your I guess experience with from when you didn't know it to when you used it and you started to use it and started to see some results from it.
Right. So that came because I had agoraphobia and panic attacks. I had major, major stress, major anxiety. I was actually living in Japan at the time and doing wedding ceremonies. That's a whole different story in itself. And during those wedding ceremonies, I got panic attacks. So tried medication, tried cognitive behavioral therapy, nothing worked. And I was actually living in Japan and I researched on the internet NLP because I heard about it, found an NLP coach in the United States, and him and I worked together over the phone. And it was so effective that not only was I able to completely overcome my agoraphobia and panic attacks, but I also had a fear of needles, to which that fear is definitely gone. As you can see by my tattoos, this is about 15 hours of tattoos right here. First time I walked in a tattoo shop was when I was 20 years old and I passed out just looking at the needles. So it's extremely effective to deal with traumas, deal with belief systems. And like I said, when it comes to women, your behavior is dictated by the thoughts going on inside your head. Women are programmed in a way to read right through you and see your self-confidence, your self-esteem, how much you believe in yourself based on your behavior. So when I was able to achieve what I did with NLP, it occurred to me, I was like, whoa, I could use this with dating. So I started doing it for myself, got phenomenal results. People started asking me questions, and now I apply it to my clients.
Can you go into a little more detail about how you applied it to yourself, how you chose what to do, what things you found were effective, what things weren't effective, like give us a little bit more of a detail of how that evolved.
So if you have the belief system, I'm not enough, which most guys have, or that girl's too good for me, she'd be better with a different guy. These are fundamental belief systems that are belief systems, BS, also known as bullshit. It's just an illusion that was put inside of you by who knows what, perhaps your parents, perhaps a bad situation with a girl when you were 5 years old. The first 10 years of life, we're in a mild state of hypnosis. So these get installed within us, not only by bad situations, by trying to get into rapport with our mom, with our dad. So we start acting in ways that are in congruence with what we believe about ourselves, and we don't get results with women. So I figured this out pretty quickly on because I was studying seduction and I knew that the inner game is what it's called, is really important. But it didn't seem like anybody was doing anything about it. They were just doing like affirmations like, oh, I'm great. I'm a girl magnet. Great. But if there's a car already parked in a parking spot, it's hard to put another car in there. So NLP removes belief systems. So when my coach and I were working on certain things like self-worth, because at that time I wasn't making any money either, I had issues around money. So we removed those belief systems, and lo and behold, I started making a hell of a lot more money. It occurred to me, because I did understand seduction to a certain point at that time, oh, I could use this on belief systems very specific to seduction. I'm not lovable was a huge one that I suffered from as well. My sex is shameful, right? How many guys feel guilty for their sexuality, super guilty after masturbating or having sex? There's a belief system in there. So you can identify your belief systems by simply looking at the results. If when you see a attractive woman, you think, oh, I don't think I'm good enough for her, or she wouldn't like me, there is definitely a belief system in place where you don't think you're enough. And NLP can go in and remove that. It's the only modality that I've found to be effective in that respect. And that's why it gets such good results, is because it literally goes after belief systems. So you identify the belief system. I happen to know which belief systems are affecting how attractive you are with women, and we pluck them out, just like removing splinters from the brain, as I call it. And then you can replace it with positive belief systems. I am enough. I am a champion. Why don't you just decide to believe that? Well, there's programs running in the back of your head, and you're hitting print on a printer, getting the same results. Until you address it, remove it, and replace it, it's just going to keep happening over and over again. So that's how I discovered what to go after. And it's consistent with all my clients. Like every client that comes in, it's like pretty much a very similar bevy of belief systems and traumas. Of course, everybody's individual and everybody's different, but generally speaking, I'm not enough. My sexuality is wrong. Shouldn't talk to women. Don't disturb people is a huge one. She'd be better with a different guy. She wants a 6'2", 6'4". Let me do that again, if you don't mind. She wants a 6'2", has six-pack abs, and makes six figures. That's bullshit. That's what women think they want. But what they're emotionally attracted to and what they rationally think they want are two different things. So we get guys believing in themselves as if they chose how they are, and then they get good results with women because of their behavior.
You find that most of the guys have the same patterns in terms of what has to be fixed, or is there
Yeah.
a wide variety in what you come across from the different clients, and generally how long does it take for you to have certain results?
Generally speaking, there are patterns, but every guy is different, which is why when I work with a guy, I don't just give him like the cookie cutter NLP processes. I customize each NLP protocol for each guy. But generally speaking, it's very similar. I mean, I read them every day. It's like, okay, yep, 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 very consistent. What's usually pretty different is the traumas. So some guys, as I'm sure you know, have been abused as children, have been put down by their father, or their dad was an alcoholic who did certain things to them, or they were rejected really bad by a girl. So those traumas are quite a bit different, but usually the belief systems for a guy who isn't good with women are consistent for the most part. And we identify those through an NLP intake process to identify them. And then we go to work on them. And each protocol is like 20 minutes. And my guys are with me for 3 months, where every day we're doing a different NLP protocol. So hopefully in this episode, I can give your guys some tangible things they can do themselves today without having to work with me, so they can experiment with it. They like my content. Of course, they can listen to my podcast, but I don't try to close people on my program until they've tried it. So I'm definitely willing to share some techniques with you if you're open to it.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead. I'm definitely interested to learn more about it. I've got lots of questions for you, but
Sure.
let's go ahead. I'm definitely open to hearing more.
Okay. So first and foremost, boys, obviously working with you one-on-one is way more effective. Doing this to a general public is limited in its results, but here's a few concepts I want you to understand. Awareness alone is curative, which means when you're aware, perhaps as you just were made aware, that your belief systems are nebulous, they are illusions, and neuroplasticity means that your brain can actually change shape and make different connections, then you have control over that which you are thinking. So the very first step is to question your thoughts. As I always say, don't believe everything you think, because those thinking patterns were probably given to you before you could defend yourself, and they're usually not conducive to your success. So immediately you have to question what you believe. Well, how do you know what you believe? Look at your results. How much money are you making? How many girls are you attracting? What's your friend circle like? What kind of place do you live in? What kind of car do you drive? These are all evidence of your belief systems and your thinking patterns. So immediately, anytime you have a negative belief, she wouldn't want to talk to me, or money's hard to get, or whatever it is you're dealing with, question it. Say, really? Wait. Is that my belief system, or is that my dad's, my mom's, my brother's, that asshole coach that I had in third grade? Whose is that? And if it's theirs, why am I repeating it? Why am I hitting print on that printer? You can, with a single decision, drop it. Now, some of them are more ensconced than others. So another technique is to, when the thought comes up, say to yourself, erase that. So if you're like, oh, that girl wouldn't like me, you'd be like, whoa. First of all, that's my dad's bullshit, or my brother's. Erase that. Just say that, erase that. It's a little embedded command that has some NLP modality in it to let you erase that thought and choose a better thought. Be like, you know what? Maybe that girl would like me. Maybe I'm just her type. Maybe her and I will get along. Maybe I'm exactly what she wants. And then go talk to that girl. So the first step, and perhaps the biggest step, is the willingness to remove the belief system, which is why when I work with clients, I like them to have rapport with me, which is why I always try to get my clients to listen to my podcast first. And the second step is to question it and say, wait, where did I get this from? Even if you don't know, just question it and say, is this helping me or hurting me? Usually it's going to be hurting you. And then the third step is to be willing to drop it. How do you drop a big sack of potatoes I just gave you? By dropping it, by making a decision, by saying, this isn't helping me, dude. Fuck this belief. And then replacing it with a more positive belief. If you believe I'm not enough, try on, and this is another NLP modality, act as if, try on the new belief system just as a thought exercise, just for fun. How would you behave today if you believed that you were enough? What would you do? How would your voice sound? What would your tonality be like? How would you behave around women? And behave like that, just as a thought exercise. You don't have to change, and this is NLP as well. You don't have to change anything. Just try it on like you're trying on a suit. See how it feels, and if it feels good, do it again tomorrow. And if that feels good, do it again day after tomorrow. When you continue to act in a certain way, as if you are that way, you will become that way, because that's how habits are formed. And again, boys, belief systems are BS, bullshit. They're just illusions. So question them, choose them, be conscious about what you're believing. So there's a few things you can do now. Just question it. Don't believe everything you think is a huge one.
It's very interesting. I guess one of the things that occurs to me is that you're sort of, I guess, canceling out some negative thoughts. But in my experience, it's a little bit more than that to have success with the women. You've got to know what you're going to say to them. You know, there's a lot of subtlety and tact and discretion and charm and a variety of different things that, you know, that need to be put into the equation, not just the fact that you're confident. You know, if you can be confident in saying stupid things, that, you know, because you're confident about them, that's not going to necessarily make you successful at it. So, and I know NLP is all about language, so I assume that that's a big part of what you're teaching as well.
Yeah. So obviously a tactical aspect is very important, right? If you don't know what to do and when, how to flip attraction hot switches in women's brains, how to, as you said, drop charisma in the right way, be slightly out of her grasp, give her exactly what she wants, yet not enough of it. All those things that both you and I teach, Cliff, they're not going to likely get attracted to you. But I'll tell you what, I would rather have a guy have utmost acceptance of himself as if he chose exactly how he is. I'm talking utmost acceptance, and have zero game, quote unquote, not know what to say, not know what to do, and still just talk to girls, than a guy who I teach all these methods to: push, pull, reverse cold reading, storytelling, frame control, all that stuff, and just be completely himself, right? That guy who accepts himself completely is going to have more success than the guy with all the tactics, as you and I have many times seen. If you have both, then that's where the real success comes in. I'm talking, you know, utmost abundance. Unfortunately, many coaches, and I'm not ripping on anybody, I think there's really good coaches out there, only focus on the tactical aspect. And then like the inner game stuff is kind of like a side thing. Like, oh yeah, like do affirmations, say I'm confident, I'm great, it'll work out. You need to get deeper into that. Your question regarding language. So we think via the language that we speak. And this is a phenomenon that happens in all cultures. Japanese, I speak Japanese, so they think very differently. But the way NLP works is it's neuro, brain, linguistic, language, programming. Programming the brain via language, because that's how it's programmed anyway, is in the first 10 years of life, language is being spoken into you. Your dad, your mom is speaking identity into you to make you feel how you feel, believe what you believe about yourself, etc. We use those same language patterns, such as archetypes. So archetypes are ways in which humanity thinks. If I were to tell you to imagine all your problems, all the negativity, all the crap you've been through, the traumas, the bullshit as a single object, most clients are going to imagine that as a black ball or some kind of nebulous ball of snakes or a cloud. These are archetypes that we think in, such as don't think of a pink elephant. You're going to think of a pink elephant. So what we do is we distract the conscious mind with a visualization, such as, Cliff, I want you to close your eyes and act as if you're floating up out of your body. You turn around and look down and you see yourself sitting there interviewing Mark Singh. Now what I want you to do is float out even higher. While I'm saying those things to the conscious mind, I'm doing embedded commands into the subconscious mind, which makes this a mild state of hypnosis, to allow and encourage the subconscious mind to release a belief system. So that's how language is used, because we think in language. So language is used with embedded commands, as we call them, and archetypes to help the subconscious mind drop a belief system, realize that it's just an illusion anyway, and choose a better belief system. I hope that explains somewhat for the layman how NLP works.
Well, NLP is quite, can be quite sophisticated from what I remember. I did spend a little bit of time learning it many years ago. I think in the dating world, it was, I guess, very very much used and taught in the very beginnings, and then it seemed to drift away, and people seemed to drift to a more they call it more a natural sort of approach, which didn't have any kind of training of this kind of nature. But I certainly think, and I think I've always felt that this has a value, and it's been something that's probably been neglected in recent years, and it's sort of interesting to see that you're still teaching it and everything.
So if I may, in the beginning, NLP was used as I use this word carefully, as a manipulation of women, right? So what he would do, and this is Ross Jeffries, the guy who first used NLP, right? Do you remember that, speed seduction?
Sure, of course.
So rather than using it on the client in the internal belief systems, he would use it on the girl. So imagine that all your feelings are wrapped up into this sugar packet. Now what I want you to do is imagine you're eating this packet. And what do you do is elicit emotions in women by taking her through an NLP modality to make her attracted to him. That's great. I teach some of that. But really what I use it for, and what I haven't seen many coaches use it for, is remapping the client himself to get to confidence, to get to self-esteem. So yeah, it had a big surge in the beginning back in 2000. I think what you're referring to with Ross Jeffries went away because Ross Jeffries got a lot of hate from it. And I feel it is coming back under the modality of, wait, let's fix the actual person who's using it, rather than trying to manipulate or cause a woman to do something which is quote unquote out of her control, which is never out of your control. There's different stages of hypnosis and manipulation, but he got a lot of hate for it, to which I don't agree with, but I am using it differently to remap the client himself, which is a completely different use for the modality.
Well, I guess I can certainly relate to what you're saying, but I think from what I remember, a lot of what Ross would teach was how to use language in an effective way with women that a lot of guys were never taught. And there were a lot of patterns that he would teach, and there were a lot of very effective ways of creating rapport and this type of thing.
Yep.
So I guess so I guess it's very. I'm trying to think of, what, how it related to the old days, because I met Ross in the very very beginnings of everything happening. This is like in the early '90s, if I remember correctly. It's quite a ways, quite a long time ago, and uh, he was like a pioneer at that time. There was really nobody doing anything like this.
Yeah.
Um, I'm wondering who else has sort of influenced your journey into getting to where you are with how you're teaching your things.
Yeah, so there's a lot of coaches that I like. If we're talking specifically NLP, I like Richard Bandler. My mentor is really big in the NLP space. His name is Dale Diaz. But in the seduction space, I was in with the RSD guys when they were living in Hawaii, Real Social Dynamics. So
Mhm.
I got the opportunity and the privilege to train under Tyler Durden, Owen Cook for a good year and a half there. And that's where I got really my influence. And I learned about a lot about frame control, which is the central tenet to my teachings. Frame control is the most important thing in seduction, in my opinion. He taught me a lot about that. And also, of course, mystery method, learned a lot from that. Double your dating. So I'm originally from the early 2000s is when I first got into this and kind of took it from there. And I think all of us are essentially teaching the same thing, just from different angles, right? All have different ways to line up the first kiss, for example, but essentially it's all the same. You need to elicit a certain amount of attraction and emotion in a woman, lead her to where she wants to be led, and take her there with confidence when she's ready. So these principles are all foundational. Why? Because women operate as women have for thousands of years. Attraction doesn't change with time. It's very similar to the way it was 200 years ago. Usually doesn't change with different cultures, although it can vary a little bit. I did live in Japan for 4 years and I did see some variances there. But these principles are all very similar. It's how we teach it. So what I like to do is have lots of lines, lots of different things to say to women. Different frame control reversals, which is my favorite thing. If she challenges you or asks you for favors, I have a lot of different reversals that I've come up with, but it's all similar. So I study everybody. I've been through almost every course that I'm aware of on the market because I want to see what my competition is doing and make mine that much better. And I'm sure you've done the same thing. I mean, you recognize all the names I just mentioned.
Oh, I've I've taken more courses than I can even remember at this point.
Good for you.
But it's been a while since I've taken one. It's quite a few years at this point. Um, but I'm not sure how familiar you are with me, but I've been involved in this from pretty much from the beginning. Um, and I'm actually mentioned in the game if you remember reading it.
Really?
Um,
Okay.
so
What was your name in the game?
Clifford.
Interesting. I mean, I'm sure, obviously I read it. I'm sure I'd recognize it if I heard about you. So you've been in this niche for a long time and you're still cracking at it, huh?
I'm still cracking at it. I'm still, fascinated by, and this is usually the focus of all my interviews. I'm fascinated by the change.
Yeah.
When a guy goes from having no success to having success, from a lot of the coaches who obviously should be highly skilled because they're coaching. So how they went from whatever level they were at in the beginning when they first started learning about how to improve themselves, and then how they improve their clients. And that's usually what I focus on in the interviews is learning about what you went through. What were the big aha moments for you? And how you bring those about in your clients.
Mm.
So I don't know if you have any more insights into those thoughts, because that's usually my usual focus on everything here, is to learn how someone watching this can get it can get a feeling that they're going to change their lives by
Yeah.
what you're able to do with them.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, I don't like to try to tout my coaching program because I like my guys to be in deep rapport with me. So what I will tout is my podcast. Go listen to that. Hopefully Clifford will leave a link to that in the description below. But again, the change that I think is the most important is the internal belief systems. Now, my situation was I was cheated on when I was in college, heard her having sex in her dorm room with a different guy, recognized her voice, heard them having sex. I was absolutely decimated because I was so in love with this chick. That's when I questioned, well, what the hell did I do wrong? Treated her like gold, put her on a pedestal, blew smoke up her ass, fluffed her feathers, gave her everything she could possibly want, and then she cheated on me. What the actual fuck? That was my thinking. Then you realize that when you're needy, when you're try hard, when you're thirsty and you put her on a pedestal, she loses respect for you because that's a low sign of survivability. It means that if you are placating to her that much, putting her on that kind of pedestal, then you are essentially a low value guy because only a low value guy would do that. As horrible as that is. Now, you could be a nice guy without giving your balls to her in a little knapsack as I did, but it's that balance. So this is how I first got into it. Read the game, as you talked about, double your dating, mystery method, all that stuff. And now I've incorporated NLP because of my own struggles, right? The panic attack and agoraphobia. Cliff, I was this close to losing my mind. I was suicidal because of this. And it was able to help me with the remapping. And that's what I love is that the brain is neuroplastic. It can change shape, and it literally does. Scientifically, they prove this with belief systems. This is also what's really interesting about handwriting analysis, which is part of what I teach, very small part. You can analyze people's handwriting. The small movements that you have in your hands are actually dictated by personality traits. So, for example, the harder you push when you're writing your name, the less likely you are to let things go because you're a little bit serious and you take things seriously. So, when we use this as a gambit, analyzing women's personality, you also know, interestingly, that your actions, meaning your muscle movements, such as body language, the way your eyes move, the way you talk, is dictated by your belief systems, as crazy as that is. Somebody who has a long T bar, which means the cross of the T that goes for a long time. Think about the Declaration of Independence. Really long T bars, right? You can imagine it right now in your head how long the T bars are. What does that symbolize? It symbolizes that they are extremely future oriented, risk takers, and they're willing to put everything on the line in order to give themselves a better future. Literally, it's what it means. And you see it right there in the Declaration of Independence, for God's sakes, the very foundation of risk taking and trying to get a better future. So not only can you explain this to women, but it proves the fact of just how powerful the mind is. Now, you could do it in reverse, which means change your handwriting, change your belief systems. And this is what goes into body language too. You always tell your clients, right? Sit up straight, have a smirk on your face, chest out, open body language. I'm the shit. I accept myself. What happens when you act that way is you actually begin to think that way. And when you think that way, you begin to act that way. And they're working off of each other in opposite directions. So another NLP process is, again, act as if, not only in your thinking, but your body language, the way you talk. How would you talk if you owned the nightclub that you're talking to a girl in? Would you be like, hey, how's your night going tonight? And your voice goes up at the end? No. You'd be like, hey, how's it going tonight? You guys having a good time? And your voice will go down at the end because you know internally that you're the shit. So I always tell guys, act as if, dude, act as if you own that nightclub. Act as if you are the champion of all champions. Now, obviously, there's a lot of guys listening who are like, great, yeah, that's great in theory, but I can't get there. Well, whether it's with me or somebody else, look into NLP because this can literally remap belief systems where you can believe it, thus act that way. You act that way, you believe it more. You believe it more, you act that way more. And it's a snowball that just keeps going and going. Because I'll tell you, Clifford, you've been in this for what, 34 years? I've been in this for about 24 years. And the dude who I was then is not even recognizable compared to the dude I am now. And I can tell by looking at you, your eyes, how relaxed you are within yourself, that you've done a lot of self work. I could just see it in your eyes, Cliff. And I'm sure you recognize what I'm saying. That is done by freaking working on what's in here. inside your head. Also approaching women, putting yourself under social pressure, learning frame control, and that acceptance of yourself as if you chose how you are. That's what I always tell my clients. I'm going to get you to the point, brother, where you accept yourself as if you chose it. Even if you are fat, ugly, bald, look like a chicken McNugget with tits, doesn't matter, brother. It's how you think of you that will lead the woman to think of you the same way. So if you think you're a piece of shit, you're a piece of shit in her eyes. If you think that you're a champion in her eyes, even if you look like an unfrozen caveman, which a lot of my clients do, but it doesn't matter. So that goes back to my thing. I would rather have a guy fully accept himself than give him all the lines and the gambits and all the stuff we teach any day of the week. Because you've seen dudes who know nothing about game, who still pull and who look like unfrozen cavemen. It's that belief. It's that self-belief. So work on the brain first. Question your beliefs. That's the big point I would love to leave with the guys today is question them, question them, question them. Do not believe everything you think. It's an illusion.
Have you got any strategies or tactics or something to make these beliefs permanent? You know, the thing is that I think it's one thing to, you know, change your state and start to have a good thoughts and everything, but you know, it's kind of like a muscle. If it doesn't, you don't keep exercising it, it gets flabby after a while.
Yes, sir.
And I'm wondering if you have some methods that you teach or coach to, I guess, ingrain these things more permanently.
Yes. So have you ever heard of this thing, 18 minutes a day to mastery?
Somewhat familiar, but not really.
So if you do anything for 18 minutes a day for a year, you will be better than 99.99% of the population in that thing. Just think about that. I suck at golf, as I'm sure most people do, right? If we were just to practice for 18 minutes a day for a year consistently, I'm talking every single day, 18 minutes, we would be better than 99.99% of the population. It's that consistent, small doses every day over a long period. And in my opinion, a year is not long at all, especially when you get to be my age. I'm almost 50. Over a year, you can be better than 99.99% of the population. So it's a consistent and relentless pursuit of not allowing those bullshit belief systems to repeat in your head. Every word you say is creative. I'm very into the law of attraction and your words are creative. Here's reality. First, you think of the picture, then you paint it, then you step inside of it. So your thoughts are creative. Your words are very creative. So anytime like, I'm not enough, I'm a piece of shit, like she wouldn't like me, I'm unattractive, any of that, you have to say erase it, replace it with the opposite belief system, such as, I am enough. I am a champion. I accept myself. And at first it's going to feel weird, like putting on a pair of pants that you've never tried on before and they don't fit right. But eventually those pants are going to change and you're going to change to where they do fit right. They do feel good. And it's going to be consistent because you are literally remapping your brain. It's like your synapses is here to I'm not enough, and it moves. It literally moves over to I am enough. And that takes time. How much time? Well, if you practice this consistently, it doesn't have to be a 18-minute chunk, but all throughout the day, telling yourself, I am enough. I'm a girl magnet. I'm a champion. I accept myself. I love myself. And do it consistently for a year. Oh my God, the results will be huge. But in addition to that, to speed up the process, as it were, we do have NLP processes to implant that very quickly so that it's easier to adopt. You still have to do the work of affirmations. I like to call them declarations. And I have my guys touch their head at the same time. Like, I am a girl magnet. That touching of your head as you do something puts a physical touch to a linguistic saying, which makes it more powerful, but it's that consistency. And you got to do the work, right? I can't just go into your head and sprinkle some fairy dust and change you overnight. NLP is going to make it happen 10x faster, in my opinion, but you do have to do the work, which also means you got to go out and talk to girls. You got to go out and get experience, because just like Cliff here, I can see from his eyes that he's been in thousands, if not tens of thousands of sets. I could just tell. Right, Clifford? I can just tell, dude. I could tell by fucking looking at a guy. I'm like, oh, that guy's game. By the relaxation of his eyes, the way his face sits, and that can't be faked. That comes from doing the work, investing in yourself, getting to that next level by following your fears, moving into them with a bold, courageous heart. And all the guys can do it. And not only can you do it? But it feels damn good to do it, to get to that highest level.
So I guess I wanted to ask you, I guess, about some a more, I guess, different aspects of, I guess, of meeting women and uh, uh, or is it, or do you really just focus on just the mental state, or do you teach them, how to go out and meet women, like specific tactics and,
Oh yeah,
things like that? Maybe you can go into sort of more outer game a little bit now.
for sure. Yeah, yeah, brother. I mean, that's a huge part of what I teach, not only in my coaching program, but more specifically in my podcast. I have so many damn strategies, things to say, things to talk about, etc. So whenever I tell guys like, look, brother, if you come work with me, you got to open 20 girls a week. They're always like, oh, their butthole tightens up and they just fucking want to run away. But I'm like, whoa, 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 before you run away, you don't have to try to get their phone number. You don't have to try to get anything from them. You literally have to talk to them for 3 seconds. Then they're like, oh, do tell me more. And I say it's the approach and eject method. Go up to a girl, ask her a simple question. Hey, where's the watermelon? Where's the train? Where'd you get that Starbucks? Do you know which way the freeway is? She tells you, and then you eject. Now, the reason we do this is because in NLP, we understand that if you're rejected by a girl, it could put you in a negative energy feedback loop, which will demotivate you. So my job as your coach is to show you that women are pretty damn cool when you're cool to them. Strangers are friends I haven't met yet. So if you go up to a woman and say, hey, where'd you get the watermelon that's in your shopping cart there? And she says, oh, it's over there. And you say, thank you, have a nice day. It's going to prove to your subconscious mind that women are relatively safe when you're cool to them. When you have the two most important things of opening a woman, which is tonality, as well as energy, feeling good inside yourself, because energy is contagious and women are always trying to get in a better state. It's going to blow open for you. You get good experiences, then you do what we call stacking. Okay. So let's say, for example, you've done, usually it takes most guys like 40 to 60 opens and ejects before they can feel comfortable to do a conversation. So now we go up to that woman and we say, hey, what's that thing in your cart right there? Is that some kind of gourd? It's yellow and it's weird looking. And she's like, oh yeah, that's a spaghetti squash. You'd be like, how do you cook with that thing? She's like, oh, you make spaghetti with it. You'd be like, spaghetti? Wait a second, are you vegan or something? And then she's like, yeah, I am vegan. I'll be like, hey, how's that going for you? I understand that vegans don't get enough protein. Is that true? Now you're getting into a conversation based on what I call the OQQP method. Open, question, pry. So you open her with a simple question, ask a couple more questions to pry open a conversation, and then you start talking about whatever it is that she's given you, and you go on that conversational thread. You'd be like, you know what, that's really interesting. So I really enjoy Thursday night dinners. So what are you making us on Thursday night? You making us some vegan spaghetti? Is that what you're making us? And now you're going a little bit into flirting. Then you can use some different methods like storytelling. Cold reading is a huge one. Push, pull, all these different gambits that I teach to elicit attraction. When she's attracted, you go for the phone number. But in the beginning, guys are freaking terrified of opening. And Cliff, I know you know this too. It's like this huge, huge roadblock. So we ease into it like an old man into a warm bath, very slowly, prove to them it's not anything to be fearful of. And then you're going to get into conversations without even trying. You're going to be like, hey, where's Starbucks around here? She'd be like, oh, it's over there and it's over there. I got this latte thing. And she starts going on and you're like, oh, okay, I'm getting in a conversation now. Then, of course, once you get certain signs of attraction, you can go for the phone number. This is an all-important skill set that I combine with the online dating apps, which are a headache, but a good place to practice, as well as what I call top of funnel ideas. I want my guys talking to as many girls as possible. And when they work with me, it's you have to open 20 girls a week, at least approach and eject, ask a simple question. Then by usually week 6, they have a big breakthrough. All the concepts come into play. I have this thing called the 4 pillars of attraction: frame control, value, sexual attention, qualifying. Once they understand how to deploy these in the conversation, it's over. I mean, they're getting phone numbers on command, usually about 6 weeks. And that's also when the NLP starts really taking effect. And then it's like, and forgive my analogy here, but it's a good analogy. It is like a pushy avalanche. It's just like from nothing, you know what it's like, Clifford, to just an avalanche. And you just have too many, usually around 6, week 8, some guys week 10. But if you put 3 months into yourself, doing an immersion phase, which is about 5 to 10 hours a week minimum, you will get that result because you're working on both the tactical as well as the inner game system.
Sounds pretty interesting. Any interesting little tactics you can share specific uh, specifics about maybe something about maybe how you would coach someone to approach a woman rather than just well, beyond the just the quick questions that you mentioned before.
Yeah, so I don't like the canned openers if that's what you're asking about. Like, hey, could I get your opinion on something? So this girl texted my friend and she said this, and this. How do we interpret this? Those are fine as a crutch, but what I like to do is just have them ask those simple questions. Why? Like you, Clifford, I've done more approaches than I can count. And I've asked many girls, hey, do you remember the first thing I said to you? And they're like, no idea. Don't remember at all. And with the really like fancy ones, right? We got one. If you guys want to steal this, you can. Where you're like, hey, there's something in your hair. And she's like, here. And you're like, no, it's over there. Do you mind if I grab it for you? Then you get a big ass wad of lint out of your pocket and you pretend to pull it out of her hair and you say, here you go. That'll be $5, please. That opener I've done many times. I've literally had girls forget that's how I open them. And this communicates that women are what? They're on their back foot. They're like, what's this guy want? What's he trying to get? They're thinking. They're not listening. So what I like to do is instead of focusing on the content, open with something so stupid simple they can answer it in their lizard brain, which is all that's operating. Where are the watermelons? Okay, I can answer that. He wants the watermelons. Oh, they're over there. Then another question to stack onto it. Now, I do add techniques, and I'll give you a couple during the conversation once she's comfortable. And that's called the social hook point, right? Where she feels, okay, this guy's cool. We're having a conversation. She relaxes. Now I'm throwing in attraction building techniques. But if you go up, and I will do this sometimes in the nightclubs, I'll be like, you know what? I had to let you know, you are so unbelievably in my way. Would you move aside, please? And then she just like laughs. She thinks I'm going to say she's hot. We will do some of those and we have a lot of them, but I like to focus on the two things I talked about. Energy, boys, because she's immediately assessing, how do I feel around this dude? And what do I mean by energy? Do I mean you got to be a spaz and, hey, how's it going? No, I just mean you're like Clifford. You're fucking seated in who you are and you're feeling good. How do I feel good? Choose to. This is NLP. Say, I want to feel 10% better. Boom, here I go. And you can just choose to. I want you feeling better than she feels. Well, how does she feel? You can tell just by looking at her. I can tell exactly how Clifford feels right now just by looking at him. You can tell by looking at a girl. Second thing is tonality, guys. If your tone goes up like, hey, how are you today? You're done. So what I would say is imagine you're a soccer coach talking to a 13-year-old girl on your soccer team. Hey, Kelly, go ahead and grab those balls, round up the girls, and we're going to do some drills, all right? It's that authority that you have to have. So energy and authority, I don't give a shit what you say. Now, you want some methods. Okay, I want to give guys cold reading, which is so easy. Tell her one part of her is one way, the other part of her is the other way, and that's why she is how she is. For example, you know, Kelly, as I talk to you, you're really nice, you're really agreeable, you're super easy to talk to, but I just have a feeling about you. I bet deep inside you are not to be fucked with. Like if somebody broke your best friend's heart, you just round kick that dude in the head, wouldn't you? And they always say like, oh yeah. And then if they say, oh no, that's not how I am, you say, see, I told you not to be messed with. You're even disagreeing with what I'm saying. So no matter what she says, it proves you right. Mm-hmm. Another thing I like to do is called reverse cold reading to bait qualification. You notice something about her that you know isn't true. For example, you meet some hippie chick, a soap dodger, a tree hugger, and you know that she's not materialistic. So you say, you know, as I'm in this nightclub, I see all these girls with like Gucci purses and all this makeup on. I don't know. I'm just not really into girls who are all into materialistic things like that, you know? And then she says, oh, I'm not like that. I'm actually a tree hugger and a soap dodger and I like hippie stuff. And you say, oh, really? Oh, that's pretty cool about you. You just went up 10 points in my book. You're now at negative 30. Congratulations. So you baited her to qualify herself to you. And my third one I'll leave you guys with, which is so funny, when the girl's mildly attracted to you and you think she likes to be teased, say, hey, Kelly, do you like to travel? And she's like, yes. And you push her gently by the arm and you say, travel over there. That one gets a lot of attraction if she likes to be teased. So yeah, we have a lot of those methods, but brothers, I just want you to believe in yourself because I'm telling you, that's 90% of it. It really is.
No, I totally agree. Totally agree. Do you teach anything special about online game?
Oh yeah. Yeah. Online's all about numbers. I want my guys on as many online dating apps as possible, blasting out messages. We have some good messages that work. A funny one that's going through the community, you've probably heard this one too, Clifford, is "you look like you'd steal my favorite hoodie" is a big one. Works pretty well. But a good one I like to use is so hey Kelly, I noticed something interesting about your pictures. Dot dot dot. Works really well. As well as there's a lot that we use that are really funny, but one that I like is, so I'm looking for an accomplice to rob a bank with me on Sunday. Um, I'll stay home and you go in the bank with a machine gun and bring me the loot. How's that sound? And that one usually gets a good reply. So yeah, we're blasting out messages. We're going on dates. And what I tell my guys too is, look, even if she looks like a canyon mule or an unfrozen cave woman, talk to her, man. It's practice. We're not trying to find your wife right now. We're trying to build a skill set. And that's by talking to as many girls as humanly possible. Even if they don't, quote unquote, look the way you want them to look, it's practice. And girls like to be approached. They like to be talked to. And most of them, as I said, are cool when you're cool to them.
Okay. Um, well, I think we've covered an awful lot of territory already. I think it's would be a good idea now for maybe you to tell the guys, I guess, how to reach out to you and learn more about what you're doing and that sort of thing.
Sure. So I host a podcast called the Unapologetic Man Podcast, and it is on YouTube, although I have been sandboxed pretty hardcore by those bastards, but it's absolutely crushing on the podcast apps, Spotify, iTunes, Player FM, Podchaser. It's the highest rated and biggest, most downloaded dating coach for men podcast on the market, has a cult-like following. It's really highly reviewed, so I suggest you guys check it out. And more specifically, check out Frame Control. Anything and everything I've done on Frame Control should be listened to because I have a ton of gold I didn't even touch on today's episode. So I am on YouTube, but I'm also on the podcast apps. Again, that's Unapologetic Man Podcast. And if you could spell unapologetic, you have right to all the gold that I drop on those episodes. Each one's about 20 minutes in length.
Okay. Do you have a website or maybe how would people reach you if they wanted to reach you?
Yes, sir. Coach Mark Singh, MarkSing.com. And that can be found via the podcast. All the links are in there. So go check out the podcast. I really try to deliver actionable advice in the shortest, most concise way possible. And I believe that's why it's the highest rated dating podcast right now on the market. So yeah, CoachMarkSing.com.
Well, Mark, I really want to thank you for taking the time with me today. I think you've presented a very exciting and interesting perspective on learning how to have more success with women. And I'm looking forward to, I guess, learning more about you offline as well.
I appreciate you, Clifford. Like I said, game recognizes game. And I have a lot of respect for you for being in this industry for so long and just sticking with it. That shows your true passion for it. And I always think that a guy who's truly passionate about what he does is a guy who should be listened to. So I appreciate you having me on today. It was a true honor.
Sounds great. All right. I guess we can end it right here then. Thanks.